Code Wizards, I'm Margaret, instructor at CodeWizardsHQ. And today I'm going to be walking you through a Scratch tutorial. We're going to be making a rocket landing game. So you're going to make a game where the rocket has to land on a moving platform. All right, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to walk you through all the steps. So let's get started. Step one is going to be to create a new Scratch project. So we need to navigate over to scratch.mit.edu. And if you don't have an account already, you can click on this Join Scratch button. And once you have your account, we're going to go ahead and sign in. Got my username and my password. And once we're signed in, we're going to go ahead and go up to this Create button at the top left, right next to the logo. Click on the Create button, and this is how we're going to create a brand new project to make our rocket landing game. At the top, where it says Untitled, we're going to go ahead and name our project. You can put whatever creative name that you want here. I'm going to put Rocket Landing. All right, so once you've put in your name, we're going to take a little tour around this platform. All right, so if you haven't been in Scratch before, on the left-hand side, you're going to see your code blocks. All right, this is what we're going to use to create our program. And we're going to drag these into the middle, which is going to be our program area. On the right-hand side, you're going to see a little preview. Right now it has a Scratch cat of what your game or your app is going to look like. And right below that, we've got our sprite menu. And the sprites are basically just images or characters that we're going to use in our program. Let's talk about X and Y positioning in Scratch. We've got these sprites in Scratch, and we're going to be moving them around the screen using what you see here, which is an X and a Y, all right? So our X axis, as you can see here, goes horizontally, and our Y axis goes up and down. So in Scratch, this is probably like you might have seen this in math. In the middle, we've got X is 0 and Y is 0. Moving along the horizontal axis, we've got a number of pixels starting from 0 going to 240, and 0 going to negative 240, and this is going to be our X coordinate. Going up and down vertically, we've got our Y coordinates going from 0 to 180, and then down from 0 to negative 180. So this is how Scratch is going to tell us where our sprites and our characters are going to be on the screen. So let's come back to our game, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to delete this cat sprite. So if you click on the sprite, you're going to see a little trash can to the right. Click on that and cat is gone. Now let's go ahead and go to this choose a backdrop button. If you highlight over it and then click on it, you're going to see a whole bunch of really cool backdrops here. And the one that I'm using is called Space. So I'm going to search Space and I can see all these different options. I'm using this one, but you are totally welcome to use whatever backdrop you like best. And you're going to see that populate here in our stage and our backdrops and in our preview area where we see how our game is coming along. And so far it looks awesome. So go ahead and add your backdrop. Add our rocket ship sprite, which is going to be our player that we're moving around and trying to land on the platform. So go to the bottom and you see this choose a sprite button. Hover over that, click on that. And then we're going to look for the rocket ship sprite. All right, so that's down by the R's. Right here. Okay, and of course you can use whatever sprite that you want. So I'm going to click on this rocket ship sprite. And if I'm looking up at this preview, I've got a couple things I want to change. I want to get rid of this little flame at the bottom. It's not quite what I'm looking for. And I also want to decrease the size a little bit. So on the size, if you see here, we can change that from 100. Let's change that to 50. So it's about half the size. Now for my flame, if I go over to the left, you're going to see this costumes tab. And costumes is different ways that your sprite can look. So instead of this rocket ship A on the left, I'm going to go all the way down to number 5, which is rocket ship E. And this is my rocket ship without any flames. All right, so I like that look a little bit better. Now, in order to run our code in Scratch, we're going to go back to our code blocks. So up at the top where you went to costumes, we're going to go to code. And in order to run our code, we're going to go to this events section and we're going to use a when green flag clicked. That means that when I click the green flag, I want to run all this code that's going on underneath it. And I think one other thing I'm going to change is the position of my rocket ship. So here I'm going to use a go to block, and that's going to be a motion block. And we're going to go to a specific position. Remember earlier we talked about the X and Y positioning. So here we're going to enter what X and Y position that we want our rocket ship to go to. And I'm going to use 0 for X and 130 for Y. And that's going to put me right at the top. So now that I've entered this go to X and Y, why isn't it happening yet? Well, what I need to do is put the green flag so that it actually runs my code. So when I clicked the green flag, it went to this X0 and Y130. And if you remember from what I showed you guys earlier, X0 is going to be this horizontally right in the middle here, and 130Y is going to be kind of up high towards the top here. And you'll see that's exactly where our rocket ship is. Step 4 is going to be to move the rocket ship sprite. So we're going to want to move our rocket ship left and right to try to get it onto the platform. And we're going to use our left and right arrows. So in order to make this happen, let's go to the events blocks. And we're going to use a when space key press, but we're going to change this to our right and left key. So let's start with our left arrow. And because we're moving to the left, we're going to want to decrease our X value. All right, since we're moving horizontally, we're going to be on our X axis. And since we're moving to the left, we're going to decrease the number of our X value. All right, and then when we move to the right, we're going to increase it. Okay, so then when space key is pressed, let's go to our motion blocks again. And then we're going to change our X by a certain amount. So as we're moving left, like we said, we're going to go negative. So let's use -5 here. And then we're going to do the same thing for our right arrow. So go to your events, choose our when space key pressed, and then let's change this in the drop down to right arrow. And then in motion, we're going to go to change X by, and this time we're going to say +5. So if you want to move your rocket ship a little bit more or less, you can always change these numbers. If you want to move it by -10 or +10, you can choose what you want to do there. And if we do our green flag clicked, we should see that it's working now. So try moving your left and right arrows and see if your rocket ship is going where it's supposed to go. So left and right. So let's go back. Let's get another from our events blocks, a when green flag is clicked. And then we also want to repeat this. So it's going to keep moving down and down and down. So let's grab a repeat block, and this is going to be from the control section. And then in our motion section, like we said, we're moving our y-axis, up and down our y-axis. So let's change y by, and we're going to put this inside. So we're going to repeat this 200 times, and we're going to change y by -2. And this should take us from the top of the screen down to the bottom. So every time it's going to move -2, -2, -2, all the way down to the bottom of the y-axis. Step 5, we're going to add the platform sprite and move it around. So let's create that moving platform to land our spaceship on. Go to our choose a sprite button, click on that, and this time I'm looking for the paddle, but you can of course use whatever you feel like using it. This was just a nice rectangle that I could use for a platform. So once you've got your paddle sprite on there, let's use this smaller menu here, and we're going to rename it first. Let's call this platform. And we want to position our platform at the very bottom of our screen. And if you remember, our y coordinates go from 0 down to -180. So let's change our y position here to -175. So we're right above that bottom, and we can still see our platform. So -175. And right now our x, don't worry about it, because we're going to be moving this around and the x is going to change. So let's make our y -175. So we need a variable to hold a random x value. All right, we're going to move randomly from right to left. That's moving along our x-axis. All right, but y is always going to stay at 175 because we always want it to be at this bottom, or -175 because we always want it to be at the bottom. So let's start by going to this variables section on the left, and we're going to take this my variable and rename it. I'm using new x here. So now we've got this new x variable, and this is what's going to hold our x position number as it changes. So let's go to our events block, and we're going to start with a when green flag is clicked. And one note here, make sure you're on your platform sprite and not on your rocket ship sprite. We want to add this code to our platform. All right, so when green flag is clicked, now let's go down to our controls, And we're going to use a forever block because we want it to keep moving forever. So we want to repeat this code over and over. So inside this forever loop, let's tell it what is our x value going to be. All right, and it's going to be a random number. So let's go down to our variables, set new x to, and in order to get, instead of 0 here, we want a random number, we're going to use this operators block. And they have this very nice block called pick random. And we're going to go from negative 240 to 240. And if you remember, that's our x. All the way on the left is negative 240, and all the way on the right is 240. And in order to make this kind of smoother, let's add a glide, all right? And that's in our motion section. So we're going to glide, let's do 4 seconds to our new x. So we need to go to our variables, drag this new x button here, and y is going to be negative 175. All right, so we want to see that our x is changing positions between 240 and negative 240 and gliding slowly to get to that position. So let's give that a try. Let's see what that looks like. Once you click on your green flag, all right, so our platform is moving. Very nice. Okay, but nothing happens right now when our rocket ship falls, right? And you're not really able to land it on top of our platform. So let's keep going and see what else we can do with this. We're going to add a game over sprite. So we want some text that's going to tell us once the game is over. So let's go back to our choose a sprite button, but instead of clicking on the cat, let's hover up and we're going to paint our own sprite. All right, we're going to draw our own sprite. So you can always do this for any of the sprites that you see that we created. You can totally draw your own. So we're going to click over here on the square, and that's going to give us a little square. I'm just using a kind of a plain black one, but if you guys want to change the colors, there's a fill option here. You can change the colors, and you can also put a different outline on it too. So there's some options there. Now I've got my little square. I'm going to click and drag on this right side to make a rectangle. Okay, now on top of this, I'm going to add some text. So this little T is for text. And instead of black, because we wouldn't be able to read it, I'm going to maybe change this to a yellow color. So when you slide these, you can kind of see all the different colors that you're able to get here. So let me change it to, that's like a nice yellow. Okay, now if I click on top of my rectangle, I'm going to be able to write a little bit. So I'm just going to write game over. And if you don't like that font, you can go up here where it says sans serif, and I'm going to change mine to pixel. This one looks kind of cool, like a video game. If you want to make that bigger, just click and drag, and you can see it over here on your preview screen what it looks like. So if you want to kind of center that a little bit, maybe make your box, and if you want to select your box, you can click on this little arrow, select your box, and then make whatever changes you want with that. And I'm just going to go over to my preview screen and kind of move it around here. Okay, so then you can move that there. So now we've got a brand new sprite, which is going to be our game over sprite. And I'm going to just rename this. Instead of sprite 1, let's call this game over. And we only want this sprite to show when our rocket ship reaches the bottom and we didn't land on the platform, right? This is kind of our losing message, like womp womp, game over. So once we do that, so we've got our game over sprite, let's go ahead and click back over to our code tab. And this time we're going to be on our game over sprite. And let's start again with our when green flag clicked. So going over to events, when green flag clicked, and then we're going to hide it until a certain point, until we need it. So let's go to looks. Haven't used these yet. We're going to go down here and use this hide. So when we start, when the green flag is clicked, then we're going to hide. And of course, you can also put whatever message you want. It doesn't have to be game over. It can be whatever you feel like. All right, so that means when we click the green flag, ta-da, it's gone. Add a you win sprite. So we also need some text to tell us when we've successfully landed, right? So right click on the game over. We're going to try copying a sprite this time. So right click on it and duplicate. Now you see this game over to sprite. So we can change that to you win. And we want to change the text, right? We don't want it to say game over. So let's go to the top to our costumes. That's where we control what our sprites look like. And instead of game over, double click on the text and let's put you win. And again, if you click on this little arrow, you kind of move these different layers around, put that right in the middle. All right, so now you've got a game over sprite and a you win sprite. And we only want this sprite to show if our rocket ship actually lands on the platform. Since we duplicated this sprite, it should already have the code to hide the block at first, and then we're going to work on actually showing it at the right time next after this. All right, so if you go back up top to our tabs, let's click on code. And right now we're on this you win sprite, and we've got a when green flag clicked and a hide, just like we did for the game over. Step 8 is going to be adding some game logic to our rocket ship first. So depending on where our rocket ship lands, we're going to display a different message, right? It's either going to be you win or game over. And in order for that to happen, our rocket ship needs to broadcast this information to the other sprites. So the rocket ship's going to tell these other sprites, hey, I've landed on the platform. You can say you win, or it's going to tell these other sprites that, hey, I didn't make the platform, and it's going to show this game over sprite. So in order to add code to our rocket ship, let's click on our rocket ship sprite. And underneath where we have our go to block, let's add a forever loop. All right, so we're going to add a little bit to this. You might need to move things around. Move these guys down. And we're working on this block. Our when green flag clicked go to x is 0 and y is 130. All right, so we're going to add that forever block first. And that's going to be in our controls. Drag over a forever block. And then inside that forever loop, we're going to add 2 if-then blocks. And that's going to say, if we touch the platform, you win. If we don't touch the platform, it's game over. All right, so let's grab an if-then. And we're going to use this sensing section. All right, so this is going to tell us when we're touching another block. So get this touching and put it inside the if-then conditions here. So if we're touching the edge, which is the edge of our screen here, all right, our program area, then we're going to broadcast this lose message. All right, so under events, let's get broadcast, and we're going to broadcast a new message called lose. Now, let's add the same thing, and we're going to say in controls, if then, it's going to go underneath this other if then block, all right? Be careful not to put it inside. So let's put it underneath, but still inside the forever loop. And again, you guys probably know we're going to go to our sensing, and this touching, this time though, we're going to say if it's touching our platform, all right? So if touching platform, then we're going to broadcast a different message, which is our yay, our winning message. So let's broadcast, and we're going to say new message, and this one's called win. Now, right now, we have our rocket ship sending out this message, right? But nobody's receiving it. Nobody's hearing it. So in our next step, we're going to add some logic to the you win and game over blocks in order for them to receive this message and show up at the right time. We're going to add game logic to the you win and game over sprites. So depending on where our rocket ship lands, we're going to have to display a different message, right? Either game over or you win. And our rocket ship just sent out a message, either lose or win. So our game over and you win sprites are going to receive that message and figure out what to do based on the message that they get. So let's first click on this game over sprite. And in our events tab, let's get a when I receive lose. So when it gets the message lose, it's going to show. So let's go to looks, and we want to actually show this message now. And we also want to stop the game. This is going to be the end of the game. So if we go to this control section, we see a block called stop all. So when I receive lose, show this sprite game over, and then stop the game. Now going over to our you win sprite. So click on the you win sprite. You guys can probably guess we want to do something similar, but it's going to be for that you win message. So let's go back to our events. When I receive, and instead of lose, we're going to say win, go to our looks again and get the show block. And then under control, again, if we win, the game is over, and so we're going to stop all. All right, so that's going to stop all the code. Now, your game is complete. So you guys can go ahead and give it a try and see if it works. So click on your green flag and let's play the game. So I'm going to try not landing first. So let me go down here. Ooh. All right, I'm seeing my game over. Perfect. Now let's play it again. I'm going to click on my green flag. Try really hard to land on it this time. Okay, it's not moving much. That's good. And all right, you win. So it sounds like my message is going through and everything is working awesome with my game. So hopefully you were able to complete your game also. If you ran into any problems, take a look at the different sprites and see if you can figure out which one is giving you the problem and take a look at that code. Otherwise, you guys have done an amazing job. I hope you have fun playing your game and share it with all your family and friends. Great job! You've completed your rocket landing game. Now, if you want to do some more tutorials, I've linked them in the description. I'd also love to see your completed projects. Come and share those with me on Facebook. If you really want to level up your Scratch skills, you can also come take a class with us at CodeWizardsHQ with a live instructor like me. Other than that, I'll see you guys on the next tutorial, and bye for now.